Good morning. Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wellness Wednesday. I am so happy to be back on. Whoa, I don't know what I just hit. I am so happy to be back on live with you this week. For those of you that were looking for me last week, I'm sorry that I was still too sick to pop in here and talk Wellness Wednesday, but I hope you enjoyed the replay of my, I believe that was my trailer towing story. I hope you all enjoyed that. If you don't know me or you're just stumbling on my page, my name is Donna. I am a mom, a nana, a girlfriend, a personal trainer in progress, applying to grad school, and an activewear fanatic with my own online activewear boutique. I am also officially now a best-selling author, which I'm super excited about. But I would have liked to have felt a little healthier so that I could have been a bit more excited about it when it happened. Going on with my internet here, so hopefully it's not going to be one of those mornings, but it just gave me an error message, so we'll see. Okay, so let's get started. I am much better today. I do still have an issue, which we'll talk about in a minute, because whenever I can tie wellness into whatever has recently happened with me, it makes it a lot easier and I sound much more knowledgeable that way. So if you're here, let me know you're here. If you don't see this till afterwards, hit hashtag replay in the comments or something of that nature so that I know you saw it. If you ever have questions about a Wellness Wednesday or an idea for a topic, please feel free to message me or ask in the comments. All right, so I had to post the replay last week because I was too sick to get on live. And it's normal when you're healthy and active like I am to become very frustrated when you are not normal, right? When you don't feel normal, when you feel like you're just not yourself. It's very easy, at least for me, to get very frustrated with whatever's going on with your body, right? And in the process, it's also easy to let go of some good habits. So I'm pretty healthy and I don't get sick often. But when I do, I really tend to get my butt kicked. And this was one of those situations. And it kind of sidelined me a little bit because what I was experiencing versus what Eric was experiencing, I should have known that something else was going on. But it was a little different than what I've experienced before. So basically what happened was I had bronchitis, according to the doctor. Now, Eric did not progress to that point. He was also sick, but his, I think, moved faster. And he went through each stage a little faster, whereas mine got a hold of me and shook me kind of like a rag doll. So how did I get here? I have some ideas of how I got to that point. But the difference between what Eric had and what I had apparently was that it did in fact get a hold of me. And then I thought I was getting better because the low grade fever went away and I had a couple of days where I started to feel better. So I thought I was getting better and then bam, right back down. So that's where it kind of got away from me because I thought I was getting better. So I may have stopped doing some of the things that I should have been doing all along to help. So how did I get here? How do you get here when you're healthy and you hardly ever get sick and then all of a sudden you're flat on your back? Well, there's actually a few things that could have done it for me. As you know, I am working more from home. And I had recently injured my back. So once I was feeling better and got back into normal mode, I had some deadlines I had to complete, and I did not want to leave the house. Okay, so let's talk about that because that can actually sometimes compromise your immune system. And that was a discussion, a topic of discussion quite a bit during the pandemic about quarantining versus not quarantining. Because historically we had only quarantined healthy people. And I'm going to stop there with that particular subject because that can get dicey. And I am not a doctor, but what I do know is this. Historically, and we've all talked about it, kids are healthier if they're exposed to more, if they're outside, if they're eating dirt more, etc., etc. I have a friend who's actually a family member who had a daughter, and she worked in a restaurant. Well, she still has the daughter. But many years ago, when her daughter was very small, she worked in a cafe, and her daughter was frequently there with her. And people would comment all the time about the fact that her daughter was crawling around on the floor in the cafe. Now, hear me out for a second, because this may sound gross to you too, but I understood the situation and the outcome. So when her daughter had to go in for a checkup, she took her daughter to the doctor. And it was like a 1 year checkup, 2 year check, whatever, the regular annual checkup, not because there was anything wrong with her. And once the doctor figured out who she was, the doctor said, see, my internet's acting very funny today. Are you the one who allows your child to climb around on the floor in the cafe? And of course, she bristled a little bit and she said, why, yes, I am. Why? And the doctor said, congratulations. Your child probably has the best immune system in the entire state, or something. It's been a while since I've heard the story, or something to that tune. Basically, the doctor congratulated. She was prepared to kind of get her butt ripped for letting her child climb around in a public place on the floor. And the doctor said, congratulations, you probably have the healthiest child in the state. So keep that in mind. When we are not leaving the house, when we are under quarantine or self-imposed quarantine, or just don't want to leave the house. And in this case, after I injured my back the last time, that's kind of what happened. I was so far behind on so many things that I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to see anybody. I just wanted to stay home and get things done. Just stay home and get things done, uninterrupted, leave me alone. You know what I mean? So what happens there is when we put that kind of self-imposed quarantine and we are home alone all the time, or we are rarely, good morning, Miss Stacy, I see your little face bubble, or rarely exposed to people and things, we actually could be compromising our immune system because we're not getting exposed to things that our body could fight in a very simple way, and then this can perpetuate. So the fact that we're out there, out in the general public, socializing, working, saying hi, whatever, that actually has the potential to strengthen our immune system. Good morning, Miss Ann. And when we're not leaving the house and we're self-quarantine and I may have done that for for 2 to 3 weeks because I was so far behind on things from my back injury, that there's a possibility that can compromise your immune system. Another reason that I know I got to this point is because since I have been working at home more, I am less, even though I know better, I am less regimented about my eating schedule. And you guys have heard me talk about this. If you watch Wellness Wednesday regularly, you heard me talk about routines and eating by the clock and how I have to eat by the clock. Otherwise, I get busy and I forget to eat. If I were to wait till I might never actually do that. And that's what's been happening, is that I am not eating enough, and I'm not eating enough of the right things because I wait too long until I need to eat instead of wanting to eat. And then I'm just grabbing something quick like a cheese stick or a handful of cashews. And it's not that I'm eating bad food. It's that I'm not eating enough food, and that therefore I'm not feeding my immune system. So I have to get back to eating by the clock 3 to 5 small meals a day to make sure that I'm getting all the nutrition I should be getting, my vegetables, my fruits, because when you're grazing like that, you don't always grab the healthiest things. And even if you are grabbing healthy things, you're not grabbing all of the healthy things you should be, right? So that is something that probably got me to the point where I got my butt kicked for 2 weeks. And then not drinking enough water, because if I was grazing and I was busy and I might have been drinking a little more coffee than I normally do, which means less water than I normally do. Lemon water in the cup, y'all. So this was an opportunity to kind of reset myself because in this 2 weeks that I was sick, and it was literally almost 2 weeks, I went back over some of the things that I should have been doing that I wasn't doing. And I know that's probably how I got myself here. So, what are some other ways that people can get to this point where even though you're healthy and you're doing all the right things, and next thing you know, you're flat on your back? Well, the fact of the matter is, first of all, sometimes you just can't avoid it. Sometimes there's a germ or a bug or a whatever that's going around that no matter how healthy you are, or how good you take care of yourself, maybe you just haven't been exposed to or exposed to enough yet, and it may get you. Or you have a short window where you were feeling a little run down, maybe not sleeping properly. It happens. So we can't all be not sick all the time, right? And we also can't develop immunities if we don't catch those bugs from time to time. So besides the things that I just talked about that I know got me here to the sickness that I had for the last 2 weeks, some other things are chronic stress. You know, I already talked about not leaving the house and therefore maybe not getting exposed to things the way I should be, not eating enough of the right things, not drinking enough water and staying hydrated. But chronic stress is a big one. Chronic stress can weaken your immune system and make you more apt to get sick. Not sleeping enough. I just mentioned that too. I'm fading out or whatever. I just keep getting a message that my Wi-Fi is trying to reconnect, which I don't understand. So chronic stress, not sleeping enough, not enough or even too much exercise. You can actually run your body down by exercising too much. Now, I don't think that was the case with me. But the sign that you may be running your body down is that you should feel after exercise, you should feel energized and recharged, not drained and dragging. If you are feeling drained and dragging on a regular basis after you've been to an exercise class or done some type of workout, then your body may be telling you that you need to back off a little bit and rest. Maybe change what you're doing. Maybe something less strenuous like the yoga. So you can actually get too much exercise and compromise yourself that way. Is that an excuse not to exercise? Absolutely not, because the flip side of that is that our bodies need to move, and that helps to move the oxygen through our blood and to all the places it needs to be. So absolutely not. That's not an excuse not to exercise. But as I said, exercise activity should leave you energized and recharged, with those endorphins flowing, not drained and dragging. Too much alcohol and sugar are other things that can compromise our immune system. Sugar is too much, especially processed sugar, can be very, very bad for you. And unfortunately, in a lot of alcohol, there is also sugar. And then the other side of that is that alcohol can really mess with the good bacteria and the good things in your gut. And I don't claim to, there's a lot of information on gut health, and I have not even begun to dig into that. But I do know that alcohol and sugar can really play a role in compromising your immune system and your health in general. So those, and then of course, underlying conditions. Sometimes no matter how good you do or how many of the right things you do, if you have some kind of an underlying condition, sometimes it compromises your immune system and you just can't avoid it. So what should you run down? And again, I apologize. I keep getting this message. I have to reset my modem when I get off of here. I don't know what's going on. Don't stop eating and drinking. So remember when I said that sometimes it's easy to just give up and stop doing the right things when you're not feeling well, right? So one of those things when we're not feeling well is we go flop on the couch or we go flop in bed and we're not drinking. If we're laying down and we're sleeping, and I did a lot of sleeping in the last 2 weeks. I did more sleeping in the last 2 weeks, I think, than I did when I had COVID, just so you know. It really kicked my butt. But what was I doing when I was laying on the couch napping and I was not drinking. I was not staying hydrated. So that probably helped to get me there. And then it helped to keep me there because I was so tired and so kind of wallowing in my misery because I didn't feel good, that I was not eating or drinking properly. And it is often when we are sick that we don't have much of an appetite. We don't feel like making anything, especially if we don't have somebody handy around. that can do that for us, we tend to drop the most important things right away, which is eating properly and drinking enough water. Because if you have something like bronchitis or an upper respiratory infection, you need those liquids to help keep all that mucus nice and thin. And you need that food, feed a fever, starve a cold. It's very, very important to keep up with the nutritional stuff. Keep food in your body so that it has fuel, and to keep that. So that is something, when you start to feel run down, that is the time to make sure that you pay extra attention to what you are taking in terms of liquid and nutrients, instead of paying less attention. And I know that's really hard to do, and it's counterintuitive when we're not feeling well, but that is the time that we really need to be paying attention to what we're putting in our body. To do when you start feeling run down is heed the need for a nap. Even though I was tired and I slept a lot, and that probably kept me from drinking and eating properly, this girl doesn't nap. You can ask my VIP group whenever we run challenges. Sometimes I give a bonus point on Sundays for taking a nap. This girl does not nap. So if I'm tired and I'm walking over to that couch in the middle of the day and I'm laying down and I'm actually falling asleep, something's wrong. And that means that I need to listen to that. That means I'm tired and I need to listen to that, and I need to heed it. So heed the need for a nap. If you are feeling run down and you are feeling more tired than usual, you might need to rest a little bit. You just might need to do that. Maybe move around, go for a little walk. And if that doesn't, do a little yoga. And if that doesn't perk you up, then you need to take a nap. So if your body is telling you that, and it's especially if it's unusual, like it was for me, then that means something's wrong and that your body needs the rest. So heed the need for a nap. If you start feeling run down and you feel unusually tired, then you either need to go to bed a little bit earlier, or you need to take a break. And even if you just lay down in the recliner or on the couch or in the bed for 30 minutes, kind of like a power nap, and don't actually fall asleep, sometimes that's very restful. I had a couple of days when I started feeling better that just laying down, I would never actually fall asleep, which is kind of what told me I was getting better, because I just couldn't nap. But just laying down on the couch for an hour, 30 minutes to an hour, and trying to sleep so that I was in that restful state made a huge difference for the rest of the day. Continue moving in whatever way you can. When you're sick and you're spending a lot of time laying down, we tend to not move as much, and that can actually make the situation worse because we're not moving oxygen through our blood. And especially, again, during the pandemic, one of the important things was to keep moving, especially with that particular sickness. So if you are able to get up and move by walking, even if it's just a very casual, very slow walk, by walking, or doing a little bit of yoga, just moving around, doing some basic things around the house, it is important to get up and get moving from time to time, as much as it is important to take a nap if you are feeling the need for it. And then this last one of what not to do when you start feeling run down, and this is something I'm guilty of. We feel like crap. We go from the bed to the couch. If we even get out of the bed, we don't get a shower. We don't get up and brush our teeth. We may be lucky if we change our clothes. When we're feeling that bad, it's a thing. Every one of us has probably done it at some point or another. But that hygiene and that failure to get up and move and get in the shower and brush our teeth and change our clothes, that can have a profound effect on our mental state. And our mental state is extremely important when we've been sick or when we are sick and are trying to get better. That positivity can actually be detracted from if we're not doing basic things to take care of ourselves and make ourselves feel better. So sometimes, as much as we may not feel like it, a shower might make us feel better, or it might just wipe us out enough that we can take that nap. But making sure that we keep up with the regular hygiene is a very important part of staying well when we are fighting an illness or recovering from one. So even though, like I said, listen, I've been so sick, there were times where I didn't move from a couch for 3 days. That hygiene is very important. It's crucial in helping you to feel human and functional. And then you are much more likely to be doing the other things you need to be doing to stay or get healthy and well. So, moving on, what are some immune boosting habits of healthy people? So for those people that you know that never get sick or rarely get sick, what are they doing? What are we doing to keep that from happening? Some of these actually might surprise you. So exercising daily, we already talked about that. I don't know if I said good morning, Miss Stacy, good morning, Miss Ann. We already talked about that. You can exercise too much, but daily exercise, movement, and steps are great. And if that's what keeps you moving because you have a desk job and you're sitting in front of a computer for 12 hours, then steps are extremely important. But exercise, like a 30-minute walk, getting outside, playing with your dog, working in the garden, things like that, those are extremely important. So one of the immune boosting habits of healthy people is exercising daily. Another one is getting outside. There is proof. Thank you so much, Miss Ann. There is proof over and over and over again. Studies show that what they actually call, which this is the first time I've heard this term, green exercise, which just means doing it outside in a natural environment where you are getting fresh air, sunshine, etc. Getting outside can make a huge difference. So if you're not feeling great and the treadmill is the only way you're going to move, then go ahead and hop on the treadmill. But if you're feeling a little better and you feel like you're well enough to go take a 20-minute walk down the road and you can do so safely, then getting outside, you can do so safely, especially in this heat. So early morning, maybe before the sun's all the way up, then get out there and get that fresh air, take in that greenery, the birds, the whatever. It can make a huge difference for you. Keep your hands away from your face. Oh, hello, guilty. Oh my gosh, how I'm not sick more than I am is beyond me because I'm always touching my face. So yes, keep your hands away from your face. Good morning, Miss Dawn. Immune boosting habits of healthy people. That is one of the things the doctors talk about it. We talked about it, during the pandemic. I'm still guilty. I'm always touching my face. So like I said, it's a wonder I'm not sick more than I am. And I'm very thankful that I'm not. But that is one of the immune boosting habits of healthy people is they keep their hands away from their face. The average person touches their face 2 to 4 times in a minute. And I'm sure I'm doing at least that. So just keep that in mind. That keeping your hands away from your face is, in fact, one of these articles that I read said, look around any public place, and probably most of the people you look at, church, airplane, whatever, are touching their face in some way, and some of them even have their fingers up their noses. So keep that in mind, because what's happening after that? That's a good way to spread things to yourself and to others. Wash your hands often, but don't over sanitize. There is, just like with exercise, there is a such thing as too much. Wash your hands. There was even one site, and I'll talk about all the times to wash your hands before you eat, after you go to the bathroom. Certain times that you always wash your hands. But if you are hitting the hand sanitizer every 15 to 20 minutes and you are sanitizing every surface you touch all the time, you may actually be, again, reducing your body's exposure to germs that it needs to be exposed to in order to stay healthy and build your immune system. So wash your hands often, but don't overdo it. Don't over sanitize. It is okay to get dirty, just like my friend's daughter that I spoke about. This one surprised me, and I never really gave this much thought, probably because I've always been a paper towel girl. I've always kind of had a little bit of an issue with hand towels, and things like that. So I've used a lot of paper towels. I am one of those. I have been trying to break that habit and use less paper goods and more reusable goods, but you need to change your hand towels. We leave hand towels in the kitchen. We leave hand towels in the bathroom. Sometimes it's for company to use. Oftentimes it's for us to use. And if we don't change them those things can harbor bacteria. Why? because if you know how well you are washing your hands. So you may not be, if you're in a hurry, you may not wash your hands as well. Other people in the household or people that come into your household and are using those hand towels may not wash their hands as well. They are an opportunity to harbor bacteria. So the recommendation is to change hand towels out every 2 to 3 days at the most. I don't think we do that here. I don't think Eric and I are dirty people, but I realize when I'm thinking about that the hand towels we do use, I think we use for a week at a time, and that may not be best, which also leads to things like sheets. Because if you are sick and your spouse is not and you're sharing, okay, Dawn says if you want a solution for stinky hand towels to talk to her. Great. I think I know what you're talking about. So sheets also, if you're sick and your spouse isn't and you're sharing a bed, letting those sheets go before you wash them after being sick, the more you are potentially perpetuating something to be shared more than you might want to. So sheets, towels, especially if you've been sick, it is important to change them more often. Most people, I think, about a week on sheets, and that's how we are, and that's fine if we're healthy. But we are probably not changing those hand towels out enough, and we certainly have enough to do that. Alternative therapies. Immune boosting habits of healthy people, they're trying alternative therapies. Not everybody's a fan of alternative therapies. Again, not a doctor. Am I suggesting that you replace normal therapies for when you're sick with alternative? No. But there are a lot of great home remedies and alternative therapies out there that can augment whatever you're doing to stay well or get well, even if you're already on medication. Essential oils in a diffuser. Eucalyptus is a tremendous help whether you're on medication or not if you're trying to clear your airways. So is peppermint oil. Irrigation, nasal irrigation. You guys, I've talked about this before in terms of sinus infections. That doesn't hurt anything. It's non-medical. It doesn't replace anything, but it can make you feel like a new person, and it can really help keep those sinuses cleaned out. Hot liquids to keep airways open and mucus thin, things like that. There's a lot of home remedies out there and alternative therapies that can help boost your immune system. Are they going to necessarily get rid of anything that you may have? Absolutely not. But they can help you feel better. And if they help you feel better, that helps your mental state. And that's half the battle, y'all, is your mental state when you are not feeling well. Bath and Body Works sells those eucalyptus tablets that you can put in your shower to help open you up. Yes, I've heard about those. I just wasn't sure where to get them. Thank you, Dawn. And then another thing, it's not kale, right? You see that all the time. How do I stay healthy? Please tell me it's not kale. It is kale. It's kale and all the other green whole food vegetables and fruits. Those are extremely important. They give you extremely important nutrients. Yes, you can get some of those nutrients from vitamins and supplements, but the best way is whole foods whenever possible. So people that are less likely to get sick, it's because they're in the habit of eating whole foods that are healthier for them. The more greens you eat, the more fruits you eat, the more antioxidants, nutrients, vitamin D, zinc, all those things, the more you can take in from your food, the better. If you can get them from a supplement, that's great. If you simply can't get them from your food, but the first priority should always be to try to get them from your food. So yes, the answer is kale. It's kale, isn't it? Yes. Even though I don't seek kale out, we do eat a lot of great green vegetables like asparagus and Brussels sprouts and spinach, and lots of fruits and veggies. When I'm not grazing and when I have that stuff prepared so that I can eat it. And then the last thing, and this kind of made me giggle because I've done this before, only because I saw other people do it, and just never really thought about it. Elbows out. What does that mean? Does it mean you're elbowing your neighbor? No. But a lot of people that don't get sick very often, what they're doing is they're hitting elevator buttons with their elbows. Or if they do have to hold on to a handrail when they're going down an escalator or somewhere in a public place, they're doing it with their arm instead of their hands. Excuse me. And I do those things all the time. I try to use arms and elbows and forearms instead of hands. It's just a habit I picked up over time and never really gave a lot of thought to because I saw other people do it. And I was like, oh, that's smart. So sneezing into your hands, coughing in, or sneezing into your elbow, coughing into your elbow instead of your hands, it sometimes makes it less likely to spread germs, especially if you're not, or where you do have access to hand sanitizer. So, those are some immune boosting habits of healthy people to help keep you doing better, help keep you, help you maybe get better a little faster or keep you from getting sick as often. And as always, I have to finish this with, when do you call the doctor? It's very important to know when it's time to call. Couple things I learned that I did not know. Fever, low-grade fever versus high-grade fever. High-grade fever in an adult isn't until you hit like 100.3 or 100.4. My fever never got that high. I had a low-grade fever. I stayed right around 99.6, 99.7. Maybe sometimes I think I hit like 100.1 once. And that was part of what happened was that my fever actually went away. So I thought I was doing better. Left the house, tried to do a couple things, little birthday party. And the next morning I was like, somebody just smacked me with a Mack truck. But the fever was gone. So I thought I was getting better. So low grade fevers, if you can function through them without taking anything over the counter to make them go away, sometimes it's better to let them burn. That is something I learned while I was sick. If you have a low-grade fever like that, it is not necessary to call the doctor. Most schools of thought will say that if your fever has lasted that was kind of all over the place, but if your fever's 3 to 5 days and still isn't going away, especially if it's not going away with over-the-counter, it's probably time to call your doctor, especially if you have other symptoms going along with that. But it is okay to let a low-grade fever run for a day or two without any over-the-counter meds. Sometimes it's better as long as you can function with that fever. Sometimes I can't. Sometimes just a little low-grade fever kind of feels like my skin has been set on fire and it's very uncomfortable. So then I have to take something. But if your fever is over 100.3 as a general rule as an adult, or you've had it for more than 3 to 5 days, or you're getting new symptoms that are coming along with it, then it is time to call your doctor. On a cough, in my case, and this is another place I dropped the ball, sometimes coughs can last for 2 to 3 weeks after you've been sick, but listen to your body and heed the kind of cough. In my case, my cough became that nighttime spasmodic. When I laid down, it would start, and I would do it all night. And sometimes it would be difficult to stop. And it was almost like a muscle spasm. Like I would just wake up and my body would be curling up and I would be hacking. So that if you're having that spasmodic like cough where you simply cannot sleep, or once you get started, you can't seem to stop, then it may be time to call the doctor and have that checked out. Pertussis is a little more common than it used to be, even though we've had vaccines for it. If you don't know what pertussis is, it's whooping cough. I was actually diagnosed with that several years ago. That spasmodic cough can sometimes be an allergy or illness-induced asthma. So if you're coughing that much, if your coughing is causing pain, if you feel like you've pulled a muscle, maybe popped a rib, cracked a rib when you're coughing, it's probably time to call the doctor. And if you start getting worse instead of better, even after you've started your meds, that's a common experience that people don't always realize. You can get started on your medication and start feeling better, and then start feeling worse again, and you think that's just a normal cycle of the medication, and it isn't always. Sometimes it's a sign of some type of an allergic reaction. In my case, I hadn't started meds yet. When I started feeling better and then started feeling worse, at that point, Eric looked at me and said, "You need to call the doctor." Or rather it was, "Do you think I need to call the doctor?" And Eric said, yes, call the doctor. So if you start getting worse instead of better after you've been taking meds, or even if you haven't had meds, but you start feeling better and then get worse again, it's time to call the doctor. So I hope you found this helpful. It was a little bit long today, but I had a lot of information here I wanted to cover. I apologize if I kind of disappeared a couple of times. My Wi-Fi seems to be acting very funny, so it must be time to unplug and reset everything. But I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please share. Thank you again so much for your patience while I was out last week. I hope you enjoyed the replay. If you have any questions or you want to see any of these links that I've talked about today, let me know. I'll be happy to send them to you. Send me a message. And I hope you have a fabulous Wednesday, and I'll see you next week. Be well. Bye-bye.